So as I mentioned in the last video, we're putting on a progressive rear suspension. The 422 shocks without the remote reservoir. We put on a new filter here too, because the last one's getting dirty out in the desert and it's non-washable. So, but anyway, I already have the progressive monotubes in the front, which dramatically changed the ride. I can say it's harsher when you hit the smaller bumps at speed, but it's much more controlled, which I certainly prefer, especially at higher speeds when you're going in corners and you're hitting multiple bumps. It just doesn't get all wonky. You lose all that dive under braking and under hard acceleration. You lose that lift, and so it's just much more predictable. So it felt a little off. The front was stiff and predictable and confident. The rear, not so much. It tended to wallow. It also bottomed out quite a bit, especially at bigger bumps, and you certainly felt it right up the spine. So I got the progressive rear suspension 422, as I mentioned, and I bought the lift, tried to install them, undid the front of both shocks. I was trying to crank down the back, had the bike lifted up, and to undo the front, you have to have the stand in a certain position. You're going to pull it out, move it to a different position to get to the back. It's very tight under there, even with the bike lifted. And the reality is, with the amount of force those bolts are torqued down to, I had to absolutely crank pretty hard. I mean, it's over a 100-pound foot. The problem is the bike started rocking back and forth like this. With the bike moving the way it was, it freaked me out, especially because it would have been a pretty quick job, at least I thought, through one of the dealers. They also came to me before they started the job and said, look, what are you looking for here? Are you looking to lower it maximum? Are you looking for stock fat boy low height? Or are you looking for increased ride height and maybe more travel? But I said, to be honest, the bike's too low for me. I got long legs. You can see the difference here. The bike's fully extended. Basically what I was told was the bike will have more travel. Yeah, the wheel does have more travel before it's going to hit a fender, for example, but I don't think that was ever the problem. I think the problem was the spring maxed out. But all things considered, I'd rather have more clearance, and if it's lifted, it certainly has more clearance before it scrapes. The front's not lifted, that's stock, but the bike had a rake to begin with, so lifting it back, it's probably going to give me a little bit more clearance there. And it puts it more in the order of a standard fat boy, at least the real fat boys, not the new ones that they sold and the world loved. But for increased ground clearance and increased wheel travel, I'll take it. Whether or not there's any more increased motion of the spring, which I don't think there is still a benefit to me, or probably will be a benefit, but that's what we're here. Let's take it on a test ride and see what it feels like. Oh, dude, why do people stop so long at these lights? It must be people with reflexes that are shot. Alright. So yeah, it feels different. First thing I'll say is it's less harsh than my stock setup with the preload cranked up, one rotation. Already I can tell you that. You can see my phone and my bars jumping around. Not the smoothest road. There's a bump. Nice. Alright, well, I can start by saying this. Your back is safer with these shocks. So if you're like 90% of Americans and have some degenerative spine disease after age 20, then do your back a favor and make this one of your first upgrades. It's funny, a lot of the older school guys, I mean, some of them into the Dynas and the touring bikes, but there's still a number of these guys that are into Softails or have older Softails. But it's pretty universal in terms of the opinions on changing the shocks. If you're wondering whether it's going to matter or not, you can even look online and read from the Harley forums or read from wherever you're going to buy the shocks, any comments. They make a significant difference, whether it's this or the air suspension, or I'm sure, I think YSS is the other company. It's simply not as harsh. People say these things are stiff. Now what I will say is, the tech took the bike out once and then brought it back in and then reset it and took it out again. And the reason for that is he had the preload turned up 3 rotations the first time, and he basically said it was a backbreaker. He was around my height and weight, you know, probably within 10 pounds or so. But he turned it down to, it has 5 full rotations is what he told me, and he has it set to 2. So we have some of these suburban streets right now. They're one of these tweener roads. It's not a highway, but it's not your average 30-40 mile an hour suburban road. 40-50 miles an hour, tar snakes, some potholes. I hate repetition because variety is what makes life worthwhile. So I hate saying things that have been overstated. But you know, when it's the truth, I'm not going to cover it up, and you know, I'm going to say that it's one of the first mods that you really should make on any real softail, not the new stuff, as I mentioned. Any real softail. I mean, let me put it this way: if you don't love the way your bike looks, and if you're not inspired by it, you're not going to use it that much, and you may never even want to improve it. So the bike has to look good enough to lure you in and to make you fall in love with it, you know? Like anything else. But once you're with a bike or a person long enough, the looks are nice, they always are, but you want some more substance there. So I understand that none of us put suspension in first because you're still trying to create that allure. But the reality is, I mean, it really transforms this thing. You can feel it already. As you can see, I've only been riding for 10 miles or so, and it's quite different. At least on the streets that I usually ride, or I ride most frequently. We'll take it out back here, give it some more room. We'll see how it does in the corners. The initial hit is much less, and after the spring compresses, the rebound is actually well controlled. In addition, it's better all around, and it's something you can feel right away. You don't have to ride the bike for 2 weeks to come to this conclusion. You can ride a block or two and realize what you're dealing with. It's nice to have an upgrade that has that sort of impact. For somewhat longer legs like me, the increased height is nice as well in the back. I mean, it's more comfortable to hold the bike at rest. I don't feel like my knees are up in my chest. Yeah, this road is properly bumpy. I just went through some bumpy corners. Bumps right through the middle of the corner at a decent pace, and that corner in particular used to freak me out on this bike, at least at a certain speed. But with the confidence, and well-deserved confidence, it was a different experience this time. Might I even say this thing is supple? Yeah, I mean, not that far, but it's comfortable, man. It really is. Big difference. All right, let's run it through a twisty road. Feels good. Doing 60 plus through these corners. Feel stable. Not scraping. There's some corners up here I always scrape on, so we'll put it through the test there. So turning feels similar. Turning doesn't feel a lot different with the back up a little bit. You know, if you raise the back of a bike, Your turning is supposed to be a little sharper, a little quicker. It's like raising the preload on a sport bike. I always scrape around here, so we'll see if it scrapes today. Not there. I mean, how much room could I have gained? It won't be much. How much higher can those boards be off the ground? I guess I could have measured before and after, but this is a more practical test. There we go. Don't go so fast around there. I got boot, I got board, I got everything there. So we got some nasty mid-corner bumps and a mountain up to the left, so we'll get on that. The turns are way too tight for this type of bike, or God, any bike for that fact. But I think that'll be the ultimate test for compliance and comfort and some security in corners. So here we are, Palomar Mountain. One of the roughest, twisty roads. This thing always kills me. Oh, big improvement on that. We had these grates that run across the road that I just hit. They're never even with the road surface. I wouldn't expect them to be. It's always kind of brutal in this thing. Just sucked it up this time like a champ. This road it's mainly lean angle dependent. I'm not saying that with a better lean angle this bike would be as another one. Handles it incredibly well. I'm not saying with the better lean angle this bike would in any way be prepared to take down this thing fast. But the lean angle is going to get you before anything else. Decreasing radius turn. This is like the anti-real Softdale road. Ah, there's something that could have messed with me. Very good. Very good. It's eating it up, guys. It's eating it right up. Another one of these lovely turns. Look at this thing. Woo. Who says you have to go fast to have fun? This thing's like solving a puzzle. It's lovely. Another one of these. See how it deals with it. I instinctually get up off the seat because the pounding was so bad before. I probably don't have to anymore. Now that the front and rear end matched, it's feels so much more confident going through here. I don't think lean angle is dramatically different. I mean, it might be a little bit. Now the front end isn't lifted at all, so keep that in mind. What that means is if the rear end is raised by an inch, What it means is the lowest point, being the floorboards in between the front and the rear, will not be raised an inch. It'd be some fraction of that. Little switchback. I'm used to doing this and I'm super naked. It's very different. So not only is this road very windy with very tight corners, the surface is crap. It's very bumpy on both the BMW and this thing, and probably anything else shipping up here. Fat boy chasing a Mini. Should not happen. There we go, guys. Progressive 422 shocks for real Softails. Satisfaction guaranteed.